Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred in Season 6 is almost here, and so we're going to discuss what we're going to be trying out with our Grizzly Rage Poison Shred Druid. So let's discuss the build so you guys can take a look at what we're planning to play. Alright, we're going to discuss skills first. So first we're going to take Toxic Claw. The reason we're taking Toxic Claw is because we do need a basic skill. This is going to be our source of resource generation when we're not able to use the aspect of Unsatiated to get kills. So this is going to be great for getting resources back against bosses. And we will also use the double strike because if we're in a Grizzly Rage and we get a double hit that crits, we're going to apply 2 stacks of rabies at that time. Next, in the core tree, we're going to be taking Shred here. This is going to be our secondary source of damage. So with Shred, we'll be taking the Raging Shred. This will allow us to get some additional poison damage on our third hits of Shred, and it's going to be our fastest attacker for building up those stacks of rabies while we're in our Grizzly Rage. Then we're taking things like Digigrade Gate and Predatory Instinct here just to get some extra crit chance and movement speed. And then we'll also be taking Wild Impulses just for that damage multiplier that we can get on our core skills. Next, in the defensive tree, we're going to be taking Backlash. This is going to just give us a flat damage multiplier whenever we cast a defensive skill. We'll also be taking Vigilance and Ancestral Fortitude just for a little more damage reduction against non-physical and just flat damage reduction whenever we use those defensive skills. We're going to be taking both Blood Howl and Debilitating Roar. Blood Howl is going to give us attack speed as well as a little bit of life gain and also be used to activate our passives here in this tree. And then Debilitating Roar is going to be a werewolf skill because we'll be using the aspect Dark Howl, and we'll be using that for an extra damage multiplier, a source of Fortify, and as well as used to reducing the damage further of our enemies when we're entering combat. In the companion tree, we're just going to be taking Feral Aptitude. This is just going to give us a flat damage multiplier that will be nearly up 100% of the time, whether it's just the movement speed or both the movement speed and healthy, which is going to be a nice little 18% multiplier just for being in the game, basically. Next, in the Wrath tree, we're just going to make sure we put as many points as we can into rabies while also taking Savage Rabies. This is just so our poison will kill the enemies faster. We're going to put 1 point into Toxic Claw, 1 point into Neurotoxin. This is just to give us a source of additional poison whenever we crit, as well as applying ACC effect to the enemies. And 3 points into Envenom, just because since our core is our secondary damage dealer, this is just going to give us a big damage boost to the poisoned enemies. In the ultimate tree, we're going to be maxing out all our points into Grizzly Rage. The reason for this is just because it is our build around. We're going to be using crits while in a Grizzly Rage to apply those stacks of poisons to our enemies and get as many stacks off as possible and produce the most poison damage as possible. And we'll also be taking points into the defensive tree here just so we can get the flat damage reduction while fortified, while increasing the amount of Fortify we get from our Fortify skills. We'll be taking Nature's Resolve to give us a chance on hit to receive a bit of Fortify, and then 3 points into Unrestrained because this will just give us a form of CC reductions since we don't have many ways to get unstoppable with this build. Then lastly, for our key passive, we'll be taking Lupine Ferocity. Werewolf skills will critically hit every third hit and deal increased damage and doubled against injured enemies. So basically, as the rabies spread as well, they will also get the damage bonus, though they won't critically strike. And that includes the doubled the effect against injured enemies when the rabies hits them. Now, I think this skill tree, I think this key passive does still need some work. It's not that great. It's not consistent. So hopefully they take a look at that, but this is what we're taking. You could argue taking the Bestial Rampage, but you'd only get the attack speed bonus with this build. Our spirit offerings will be pretty straightforward. For the Deer Spirit, we'll take Wariness for the damage reduction against elites. We'll specialize in the Raven for the crit strike and attack speed. For the Wolf, we'll take Calamity to extend the duration of Grizzly Rage. And then for the Snake, we will take Masochist to get that heal on critical strikes. We'll be only running 2 uniques with this build. The Mad Wolf's Glee, we want that for the flat 5 skill points to all our werewolf skills. We want the attack speed while a werewolf, and the bonus damage from Lupine Ferocity is also nice, as well as some health. And then we'll also use the Flesh Renderer, because we'll be having our enemies poisoned all the time and trying to use Debilitating Roar and Blood Howl as often as possible, allowing us to trigger the extra damage to the nearby poisoned enemies caused by this. For aspects, the most important aspects with regards to the build are the Dire Wolf aspect, which will make Grizzly Rage a werewolf skill instead of a werebear skill. We will also be taking the Rabid Bear aspect. This is the one where whenever we're in a Grizzly Rage, every critical strike applies rabies, and our poison damage is increased by a large amount here. Then, well, we'll be running Rampaging Werebeast. Hopefully the crit strike damage multiplier is fixed, and also it's used to increase the duration of our Grizzly Rage. We'll be taking the aspect of the Unsatiated. This is going to give us a lot of spirit management while we are fighting the overworld monsters, and also a flat 40% damage multiplier when we're using Shred above 50 spirit, which will be great because this will also apply to all the rabies that we apply to our enemies. On our boots, we'll use Metamorphosis. This is just going to be our only way we're going to get unstoppable whenever we're getting CC'd outside of the skill that we took on our ultimate tree to reduce the duration of CC effects on us. We take Dark Howl because it'll make the Debilitating Roar a werewolf skill, and it also will give us some CC against poisoned enemies. On our gloves, we're going to take the Accelerating aspect. This is going to help us hit that breakpoint on our attack speed, so we're getting as many attacks and crit strikes in as possible to apply as much rabies poison as we can. And then lastly, on the helmet, we're going to take the Agile Wolf. This gives our Shred a 4th attack that deals bonus damage and also knocks down enemies for 2 seconds. So this will allow us to use Shred to apply more critical strikes and attacks to get the rabies building up on our enemies, and also help against our bosses for getting that additional source of bonus damage for Shred as our secondary source of damage. On our equipment, the key stats we're going to be looking for are willpower, attack speed, and crit chance, and then filling in any of the required defensive stats that we need to hit our caps on all of our defenses. That way we can have that survivability pushing into the end game. For the Paragon board, we will take the glyphs Werewolf, Tracker, Fang and Claw, Outmatch, and Bane. Now, if you want to see a more in-depth look at this, I recommend you go into our description down below and look at the build guide we've provided there. And there you have it, folk. There is the Grizzly Rage Poison Shred Druid we will be trying when the Vessel of Hatred in Season 6 drop. I think there are going to be some technical issues. We also have new glyphs that we're going to need to check out in this build once the new season and expansion drop. So let me know what you think of the build in the comments, and feel free to check out this video on what kind of changes we need to see to the Werewolf Druid to make it a more viable build in the Druid repertoire. So thanks for coming, and we'll catch you next time.